Now, here's really interesting. The congressional enthusiasm vote. The last one is Democrats up by 5. Democrats are up by double digits a few weeks ago. So that's closing and closing fast. Rasmussen, which was the most accurate poll in a presidential election of 2016, has it a dead heat between Republican voters and Democrat voters. It's up by 3 on Democratic side, but that is in the margin of error. So let's bring in Democratic strategist Bernard Whitman. He's been kind enough to join us a number of times, talk about how he sees the upcoming vote. So any of those numbers that I just gave, you quibble with? Anything that I said you feel is wrong?
I mostly agree with you, Bill, but one late-breaking poll that just came out from CNN, Dean Heller is actually down by 3 points against Jackie Rosen. And I think that is really, really instructive. If you look at the average, that takes into account polls that have been taken 2, 3, 4 weeks ago. If you look at the most recent poll that just came out about a day ago, you have Heller losing to Jackie Rosen by 3 points. And if you actually look back at Nevada races over the last 10 years, most Nevada races, the Republicans have been overpolled by 1 to 4 points. So typically late in the election, the Republican polling has...
Well, what's the methodology, though? Did you look at the methodology in the CNN poll? Because it usually skews about 10 points higher for Democrats.
No, it's a likely voter poll. It's obviously all based on turnout, all based on modeling. But I think ultimately...
but who is polled more, Republicans or Democrats in the CNN poll?
In the CNN poll, I can't say for certain because I don't have those numbers right in front of me, but it's generally based on expected likely turnout. And I think that, as we've seen before in Nevada, the likely turnout tends to be over-predicted for Republicans. So I think that actually
the polling can be based on methodology that polls just as many Republicans as Democrats in the state. I get your point. If more Democrats are going to turn out, but I don't know the methodology, and I don't trust the CNN poll, because CNN obviously is skewing to Democrats. We gave numbers yesterday on a study that said almost 90% of CNN viewers vote Democrat. Now,
but
the number was 95%.
That's nothing to do with who's polled. That's completely different. The representative base of who is going to likely to vote has nothing to do with who's watching the news.
No, but it has to do with whether you trust the methodology of CNN, and I don't. And they were way off on the presidential election in 2016. Okay,
well, I think most people were way off.
Yeah, but not Rasmussen. So that's interesting. So I'm looking now at them, and they could be. They're the ones that are friendliest to Republicans. Rasmussen.
Absolutely.
And if they're wrong on Wednesday, I'll be reporting that. But they were right in 16. Now, based upon the analysis, if Nevada goes, and Arizona too, if they both go into the Democratic camp, Republicans are going to have some problems if they lose Florida in the Senate. It might be deadlocked.
I think they will lose Florida because I think Gillum is going to win. I think Gillum's going to beat Rick Scott, and I just cannot see people splitting their vote and voting for Gillum, who's been handily ahead.
Wait. Gillum is up against DeSantis. Gillum is up against DeSantis. That's the governor's race.
Gillum is going to beat DeSantis. The incumbent governor, Rick Scott, is Bill Nelson. I can't see Gillum winning and Rick Scott winning. I just don't see people voting for a progressive African American and then voting for the previous.
It'd have to be a split ticket. In order for that to happen, it'd have to be a split ticket. But both races are razor thin, and the Panhandle, because of the hurricane, the polling is very difficult in there, and that's a Republican stronghold. Now on the House,
and I think there's some interesting elements here. I mean, Florida has been typically Republican, Nevada typically Republican. You're seeing all potentially 3 of these states swing Democrat this year. I think that spells trouble for the president and his party because I think people, particularly as we talked about, complicated are just saying, you know what, I've had enough of this. And obviously, people of color feel
don't think they're going to turn out. My prediction is that African Americans are going to be very low in voting in the midterms. And the reason being, they don't care that much about, and generally speaking, of course, the Kavanaugh stuff, the migrant stuff. That doesn't speak to them as much as the economy does. The strong economy speaks
or healthcare. But also healthcare. I mean, you've got a president here who has tried to take away. He's tried to. It's not ephemeral. So really, here by 20 points. The administration is still in a lawsuit trying to take away protections.
But
for
remember,
pre-existing
Bernard,
conditions.
you live this stuff. I'm talking about people who are not engaged and immersed in politics, who are working, trying to provide for their families. They may or may not vote, depending on whether they're motivated or not. They're not ideologues. They're not watching cable news. They're not reading the New York Times.
They're trying to put food on their table. They're trying to pay their prescription drug bills. They're trying to pay their medical bills, and they're understanding president.
All right.
Voting
well, I bet you on this one.
The tax cut is a losing issue for the president. That's why the president is not.
But the economy is a winner for the Republicans. The economy is a winner.
They're not talking.
I'm going to bet you.
Let me ask you a question, Bill. If the economy was a winner for the Republicans, why is Trump talking birthright citizenship and this made-up nonsense about terrorists in a caravan south of the Mexican border? It makes no sense. If he really thought the economy was a strong issue for him, he'd be running on it instead of creating all these distractions.
Well, to gin up the Republican base, because the GOP was so concerned about the enthusiasm gap, President Trump chose to make illegal immigration a centerpiece because it worked for him 2 years ago. That's why they did it. Now, the economy is strong, and I assume that the Congress people running for the House are making that a central issue, but I don't know. In my district here, it's more about Trump than anything else. Last question, though, but I'll bet you, and I know I'm going to be right, that African-American turnout in 6 days is going to be much lower than the Democrats think it is.
I do have that's one question. We'll call it a centerpiece when it's really a distraction. The biggest threat we have from
I'm saying that Trump made it a centerpiece.
Country I'm not, but piece is actually a distraction because the biggest threat we have from a terrorist standpoint here is homegrown white nationalist terrorism that is being stoked.
Right. Well, you and Don Lemon can go out to dinner and talk about that.
Not me and Don Lemon.
Come on.
It's being stoked by social media.
Lone nuts are lone nuts. Come on, Bernard. I mean, that's just propaganda.
White nationalists. They're homegrown white nationalists that are being radicalized by.
Are there 300 of them in the country? Are there 300 of them? Let's have a white nationalist march caravan. You'll have 200 or 300 of them.
Bill, they just committed the most horrific anti-Semitic massacre in U.S. history.
It was one guy, not a group.
It's never happened before. It's never happened before.
Sure it did. Happened all over it's happened throughout our history.
States.
It's happened throughout our history. You had a Democrat. Bernard,
on top of that,
you had a guy shoot a congressman in a softball field who was a Bernie Sanders supporter. One guy. Nobody said it was a left-wing movement to shoot Republican congressmen.
But you have a president who is stoking white nationalist fears, and you have a pipe bomber who tried to eliminate half of the leaders of the Democratic Party.
That's a loser. If you think independents are buying that, you're crazy. They're not.
I'm not.
Loons are loons. There's no big white nationalist movement in this country. It doesn't exist. The FBI knocked out the Klan, and that was the last white nationalist threat, and they knocked it out.
If Donald Trump really wanted to make America great again, he worked to bring the parties together, the people together, not stoke fears and spread lies.
You can't bring people who are trying to destroy you together. And he knows that there's an element trying to destroy him. The same people that tried to destroy Kavanaugh. Lively debate. We really appreciate it. But you're wrong. I'm bringing you back on the African-American vote 6 days from now. You're going to see. You'll see. All right.
African-Americans may be low, but Hispanic is near record turnout in Las Vegas.
Oh, now you're saying I'm right. We'll see. All right. Thanks very much. And we apologize for the audio cutout. This is Skyping, and, I don't know anything about technical things. I just know they drive me nuts. But you got the gist of it, I think.